It is a landmark familiar to many, near the Arch in St. Louis, the old courthouse, a grand temple of justice, but not for all.
This is the building where Dred and Harriet Scott actually walked up the steps on April 6th of 1846 to sue for their freedom.
Lynn Jackson knows the story well. Dred Scott was her great-great-grandfather.
I'm very proud of Dred Scott because he was courageous to do what he did at a time when it was considered sedition.
Scott was a slave whose owner had moved his family to the free state of Illinois. Based on a doctrine called once free, always free, Scott sued.
He was not willing to run and put his wife and little girls in jeopardy of being caught.
The case lasted more than a decade, ultimately decided by the Supreme Court and Chief Justice Roger Taney, who wrote that blacks were, quote, regarded as beings of an inferior order, altogether unfit to associate with the white race, and so far inferior that they had no rights which the white man was bound to respect.
He, in essence, said, you are not a citizen of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
You have no rights. Is that the way you read it?
Definitely, he did say that.
Abolitionists were outraged. Slaveholders were vindicated and emboldened. The Civil War all but inevitable.
I think that one of the struggles we have in America is that we think about the Civil War as ending all of racism. And what the Civil War did is that it ended slavery in America. But we then had Jim Crow and Jane Crow. We had these laws that solidified racism and a racial hierarchy in America.
Lerone Martin is the head of American Culture Studies at Washington University in St. Louis. He believes the backwash of the Dred Scott decision still ripples through our society.
I see fear, and I see the inability to recognize the human in the other. The inability to recognize that African Americans are actually human beings who, in my tradition, we say all human beings are made in the image of God.
That refusal to recognize humanity lived out in nearby Ferguson 6 years ago, where Michael Brown's body lay unattended for 4 hours after a police shooting.
What do we want? Justice!
The town erupted. We stood in that very spot.
Did Michael Brown's death have anything to do with you running for mayor?
It had everything to do with me running for mayor.
In the tumult of the protests, Ella Jones felt a calling. The former pharmaceutical chemist and Mary Kay rep wants to lead her town and her police force to a better future.
Can you make a difference?
It's all about making a difference. This election has given people hope, and even now, people are stepping up. This is going to be an amazing city. I'm counting on it. I'm counting on it.
Ella Jones is undeterred as she faces the task ahead, as was the man buried in an unremarkable section of a massive St. Louis cemetery not all that far away.
Here is this fantastically courageous person.
Well, he had to be. You know, in some regards, I think he was also thrust into that role. You know, he kept it going. And he said, you know, I really wanted my wife and my daughters to be free. But he realized that the freedom of all Africans who were enslaved was at stake, and he just went on with it till the end.